Hey friends, it's Dwight. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, it snowed outside last night. I think it's still snowing out there a little bit now. So this is Monday, January 6th, and I'm going to be working on a pour today. Now the pour I'm going to be working on is some unique colors that I really love. There's going to be some copper, some bronze, some dark brown, some blue, white of course, and some champagne color. So I'm going to try this again. So let me tell you that I tried these colors yesterday on a canvas, but there was something wrong with the canvas. One section of the painting, it's hard to explain, maybe I'll show you a picture, but it just kind of all moved in one direction. That was after I already went ahead and I leveled it and I did everything you're supposed to do to get started. Sometimes I have that issue with these canvases. I'm not quite sure how to figure out when that might happen. Sometimes I put my level all around the canvas, not just the edges, but actually on the canvas in the corners, just to see if there's any pull in those directions. So anyway, I did again today. I'm going to be doing a large canvas again, 30 by 40. We're going to use the same colors and we're going to go for it. And I'll show you that in just a moment. I've mixed my paints up already, so I'll go ahead and show you that as well, and we'll get started. Okay, friends, here we are. The paints are all mixed and ready to go. Here's my 30 by 40 canvas. That piece of paper has the instructions for my pour today in the order that I want to pour my paints. So we'll start with this large cup, which is my Artist Loft Soft Body Black. It's mixed with 1 part paint, 4 to 6 parts floetrol, drizzle of liquitex pouring medium, and water to thin, and that's a 24-ounce cup. Next to that is my Artist Loft Soft Body White, and that'll go on the very bottom and also in the middle. This is Folk Art Bronze. And next to that is a mixture of Glorious Gold and 24 Karat Gold by Extreme Sheen. And that smaller cup there is a 4-ounce cup, and that is a mixture of Ice Blue as well as Phthalo Blue to give a nice, rich, sort of darker blue look. And right next to that is Brown Pearl with a little bit of gold in it. There's my champagne. It's kind of yellowish, as you can see. It's from the Gotta Deal brand. I think real champagne looks more like that than it does like that. And my last color is Bright Copper, which again looks darker than my bronze. That looks more like Bright Copper. I don't know where they come up with these names. And then again, there's my list. So we're going to get started here in just a moment. I'm going to check my consistencies one more time, prep the edges and the corners, and we'll get going. Okay guys, here we are. Canvas is prepped, paints are all mixed, and we're ready to start. I do like to use my colander. I think it adds a cool effect. So I typically start with white near the bottom, if not on the bottom. And I'm just stacking it like I told you, about a half a cup of that bright copper, then that champagne, and then this beautiful rich dark brown. And I paired that with the deep blue. It's not quite a navy blue, but it's the phthalo blue and ice blue mixed together. That was a 4-ounce cup. And then the rest of the white. So it sort of lightened some of the blue, which I wanted. And then it started to push the blue out, especially when I added the gold. So one thing I did, if you notice in how I'm pouring this, is typically I started with a darker color, put a light color, another dark color, light color. Now the blue wasn't light, but I added all the white, and so that lightened it up. So I wanted to have some contrast between each layer, basically. Because if they're all too close together, then it's all going to run together and it's going to be a little muddy, especially if you're using a lot of neutral colors like I've been using in this pour. So I was sitting here watching how it was spreading out from the colander, and I was like, okay, it's not a complete circle, so let's see what happens there. I added a little extra water to my black paint. I wanted to make sure it was the right consistency. It seemed a little thick as it sat there for a while. So let's dry off the big old stir stick. I've been using that for a few years now. And that's a 24-ounce cup, by the way, with my black paint. So again, getting all of the paint out. And here we go. Again, slightly off center since I will be dumping on the lower left corner. And again, I was like, okay, it's not a circle. Am I going to have a problem with this? So I just kept dumping and over the last corner there. Almost there. So I bring the weight back a little bit. So now at first, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, because if you look at the upper left area of the canvas, there wasn't a whole lot of pearls filling in. So I started to wonder if I dumped too much paint off, or because my black negative space when I poured it on top of the puddle seemed kind of wonky. I wasn't sure how that would translate. But the colors were coming through, so I just popped a few bubbles there, put it on time lapse, and then suddenly you can see how it filled in. I just love how the color gets deeper and richer. And that negative space in my mind is perfect. And that blue. Okay, let's watch the dried results. Okay, friends, here we are. I let this sit for about an hour to an hour and a half. And I'm very excited. It turned out just as I had hoped. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. I used the same colors on a pour yesterday, and I poured them the exact same way, and I had some issues. So there are a few issues here that I can correct as long as it doesn't move anymore. That's the key. But let me just show you up close. I just love the use of this blue. The copper is just really beautiful. The thing about these pours and what I go for typically is the composition. So, pearls don't have to be perfect as long as they create a beautiful composition. I have the blue and some of the white, which looks good. So let me show you where I'm going to have to do some touch-ups. So down at this end, as you can see, some of these pearls got stretched. They got stretched moving into the black paint, which is fine. That happens sometimes. So what I'll go in and do is looks like I got a couple coming in right there. I'll just round these edges to make them look smoother. I will take off the black edge, the edge here, make it like a black waterfall edge there at some point. So once I round these, it'll look just a little bit sharper. There is an outside chance I may go in and dot them, but I'm not going to hold my breath at this point. We'll just see how it goes. I think it's done moving. My fingers are crossed that it is, because the one I did yesterday was beautiful, but it didn't stop moving. But I think we're good. I think we're good here. Okay, so I will show you the dried results. I won't get to this for another couple days, but of course for you, that'll be just a moment or two. And I will show you when it's dry. Okay, friends, here we are the next morning, and thankfully it dried pretty much as I left it. Now, I really, really love this because it's not like, like blue. It's not all neutral. It's got some depth to it, a nice composition. So what I'm gonna do, I want you to pay attention to the negative space. I'll show you that up close, because I'm gonna go in and clean it up like I mentioned on the other segment there, because it really needs to be cleaned up to sharpen that area. So let me show you. So, as you can see, I have all of these sort of jagged pearls and cells. I'm gonna be opening up the negative space as I trim some of these back, which is fine. I'm gonna try to keep as much as I can through here. Trim back some of these little fingers, just round some of these. I figure out what I wanna do along here. I may take out some here. It just depends on how it's going when I get started. I will be trimming back some of these, making them more round, like I said, that little area right there. But yeah, the color is really beautiful, and I cannot wait to varnish it. I think the blues are really gonna sparkle, as well as the gold. Yeah, it's gonna be beautiful. So I'll be working on that over the next couple of days. This is a long process, and just because I work also, and we'll be able to get to it until towards the end of the week. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a picture of this now to show you the before and after around the negative space. So you can just take a look at that right now. And when I clean all this up, then you get a picture of what the potential is. So I just want to say one more thing. When you are finished and your painting is dried, it is okay to go in and touch things up. I've seen a lot of artists do that. I think it's really appropriate because if you want to sell this and or hang it somewhere, you need this area to be nice and clean. If you have a beautiful rest of your painting, as you can see, this occurs because the paints are all just pushing towards the black. As the cells expand and grow, they push the pearls into that area. And so, you know, it just sort of like bleeds in, and you can just trim it back. Like you can just go in here, I will round this, I will round that, I will round in here, sort of take out that little jagged, round this back. I may just take that out, just depends, or make a small little pearl. And again, round, 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 round. So just kind of round it out. How's that sound? Okay, I'll let you go. Hold on. We'll get started here in just a few moments. Okay, guys, I decided to do a talking walkthrough of this process. As you can see, these cells got stretched out as they moved into the negative space. And so I wanted to make the negative space sharper, and I wanted to trim back some of these cells that have sort of jagged edges and or that stuck out pretty far. So I'm just using my paintbrush, my thin brushes, and just, you know, slowly trimming it back. Kind of helps me see what direction I need to go in. I didn't really take out any specific pearls except for just trimming them back. Now you'll see me use my heat gun on and off during this process because I just want to dry the paint before I put my hands back down on the canvas, especially if I'm moving back and forth. So I'm just doing a little bit of detail work at this point. As I was thinking, I was going through this, I didn't really have a plan to start with. Initially, I just wanted to go around like I'm doing right now and trim back the pearls to see what it looked like. At first, I thought I'd be exposing a lot more of the negative space, but as I went through, it looked pretty good to me. Again, I just wanted to decrease the jagged edges to make some of these pearls look more round. Once again, using my heat gun. I wanted some of these cells to be sort of free floating, so I kept some of those on there, and you'll see in a few moments where I'm working close to the edge. I kept that trail of cells because I wanted it to sort of highlight the negative space, and I didn't want to just open that up and paint over it towards the edge, which I think would have made it look too stark. Again, just eyeballing and doing some detail work as I go around the canvas. Now, this whole process took me almost an hour, believe it or not. It was longer than I anticipated, but I realized there was a lot of work to be done. So here I am, close to the edge, just sort of trimming out these little pearls. The black splotches there are where I'm going to be painting the black edge. Saw me wipe there. I dropped my paintbrush and it splattered some paint. So I panicked for a moment and wet my paper towel to dry off what I could and to get off the black paint. So back at it, defining these pearls. I know I interchangeably say pearls and cells, but to me they're pretty much the same thing. So just doing the edge here, getting it ready to be completely finished. And in just a couple of moments, I will show you the actual dried results. And I'm really happy. Okay guys, here I am after a lot of touch-ups to clean up the negative space. I wanted to make sure I showed you how it looks. After I do this little segment, I'm going to do a before picture and an after picture so you can see the difference in terms of how sharp and clean this looks compared to the previous dried results. So let me just go in and show you up close. cleaned up the edges. I'm not going to dot any of the centers. I think that the color stands out nicely against the black since you have a lot of white up here, a nice golden copper, and then it just sort of fades right there. A little bit of champagne in there. So yeah, it dried perfectly. Let me show you up close. I think one of my favorite colors to use nowadays is that champagne, which I mentioned earlier. It looks a little yellowy orange, but it really shows up nicely in this pour. And there's my negative space again. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll get to it again this weekend.